So first things first, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm alright, thanks. So before we get into the music that you've been making lately, I'd like to jump back to the beginning a little bit. And now I read that you started writing songs at age 9, and you were very much into storytelling. So what was the first story or piece of fiction that really grabbed your attention?
That's such a good question. I was really into reading from a really young age. I think I loved so many books. Obviously the classics. I love Harry Potter,
Okay.
but I loved Little Women, like What Katie Did, sort of all of those slightly older, like Louise May Alcott. All those stories of like female friendship and sort of like love and loss in a very natural, like real world. And even though I was much older, obviously, but I think a lot of those stories probably really stayed with me. But yeah, Harry Potter. I was a big Twilight fan.
Okay.
I read everything.
Okay. When did you write the first story that you thought was any good?
I used to just mainly start a lot of stories when I was much younger. I would just start and never finish because I wanted to write a book. Okay. So obviously you'd get like a few pages in and then get bored because you're 7, so you'd probably stop. And then I remember I wrote songs. I really remember like the first song that I wrote that I thought was good. Like I couldn't sing it to you, but I can sort of picture it. And like I sort of remember like this vague idea of it. And I really remember writing it. And I'd written loads of songs at that point, but I wrote that one and I was like, right, that one is actually good. Which I don't know if it is still to this day. I can remember little bits of it. And I guess in a way I think I was probably right. Like it wasn't the best song ever, but it was the first song that was probably actually me.
But that's an interesting thing, because when did music seep into kind of the storytelling?
Probably because I was never like a musical child or anything. I didn't play. I played the flute terribly, and my family aren't musical really. So I always loved writing stories. And then probably when I was like 13, maybe, I loved Taylor Swift, and I borrowed my friend's guitar. And I think I like taught myself some guitar chords and so I taught myself a few songs and then just started writing with the guitar and with my like really terrible keyboard through that. But I don't really know why. I still to this day don't really know why. I just sort of started doing it.
What did it allow you to do then? What did it give you, in a sense, that form of expression?
I think really it was actually a very like natural fit for me. I love words, I love writing, and I love narrative. But I'm like a fast mover. I think I like talk quickly, I think quickly. I don't have time. And I think I'd love to write a book one day, but in a way it's like narrative and my songs are very lyric driven and very focused on stories and setting the scene and places and vocabulary, but they're very concise. Like you have to like write a song, especially songs that I write, you have to find a really concise way of saying something in only, 3 minutes, like 3 sections.
Is that a challenge?
It's a challenge, but I don't know. Arguably, it's more of a challenge to write a book. Arguably, but I think it actually is to write like a really good pop song. I think it's a massive challenge because you have to be so concise and get this universal feeling across like in so little words and so little time.
Because did you gravitate towards a lot of artists who have that narrative style of songwriting?
Definitely, 100%. I think. To this day, like all of my favorite artists, and there's such a wide range,
sure. And
all my favorite songs are artists that are really narrative driven, that tell stories, and that like are really focused on lyrics. I think those are all my favorite artists.
Can you just name one or two?
Yes, of course. I'll give you. Well, like for example, I grew up on Taylor Swift and Lily Allen and Sarah Bareilles and Ingrid Michaelson, but then equally I love like. Kanye West, and I loved Frank Ocean when I found Frank Ocean, and I just gotten into J. Cole recently, that Forest Hills album, and then I love really old stuff. I love like old Sondheim like stuff, or like Hammerstein, and what's the other one? Rodgers and Hammerstein. That's it. Like even sort of very old songs, like jazz pieces. There's a song called When a Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square, which I just found the other day. And I love like anything with like words at its core is what I love.
So in that sense, then, would you say you're still figuring out your musical identity, or is it an ongoing process?
For sure, it's always an ongoing process. I think I sort of in a way stumbled across it. It was never I never really felt like I had to search, but then because I've been writing for so long, I guess by the time I got to an age where I was doing it, I always say to people, like, I've been doing this long, like, since I was 12.
Sure.
So, in a way, I think that time allows you to sort of naturally find what you are. But for sure, like, all the time you find new music and new sounds and ways to write that, I think.
And what I find interesting is there's one thing to writing songs and making songs, but then there's another to share it. So what was that kind of process like, deciding, well, I'm going to put this out, do you remember letting people hear your songs for the first time?
It's so funny, because that's another thing. It's so funny looking back. I wrote songs all the time. Genuinely, I think I had like 300, 400 songs just on my own.
Okay.
I was in a band, so I did that for a while. And then I just sort of decided to put a song on Facebook, one of my songs. And I have no idea why. I just did it. I just filmed it on my mum's iPad and I put it up. And it went like, not viral, but like Facebook viral. Sure. And then from that, I think I had a few friends that had a YouTube channel and I was like, I'm going to do that. Which is how this whole I started on YouTube, really. Which is crazy because I was never a child that was like, oh, I'm going to be a superstar. Okay. I never had that mentality. Like, to this day, I sort of don't really know why I did it. I just sort of did.
But before that point then, did you have any ambition with the songs that you wrote?
No, I don't. Well, it's hard to say now. Maybe past me would be like, yes, I did. But I never wrote them for anything.
Right.
I don't think I ever, again, like my family got musical. I didn't grow up in London or anything. I just wrote songs all the time. And there was like no purpose to it. I wasn't like, oh, I want to be a singer or a songwriter. I didn't even know those were jobs. I just did it. Right. And I think my mum sort of pushed me. She was like, oh, you should put some of these somewhere because they're just sitting on your laptop. But it's funny, like now this is what I love and I can't imagine doing anything else. Right. But I can really imagine an alternate reality where I just didn't and did something else. Like, it's so, yeah, there must have been some sort of subconscious driving force.
Very quick detour then. What would you do if you didn't do this? So
I think I would be a teacher. A lot of my family teachers. Okay. I like the sound of my own voice.
Geography, right? Your father?
Yes, good knowledge. Geography teacher, Mr. Peters. But yeah, like I don't want to say that like now I know I'm absolutely like doing the right thing and I can't imagine doing anything else. And I'm like hugely ambitious now.
Right.
I think it's just the initial, I sort of accidentally began and now I'm like clinging on for dear life. Okay. But no, if I did something else, I'd have been a teacher, probably like a history teacher.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. In terms of the writing then, because, well, you mentioned the narrative style that you have, but, and then early on you were very much into fiction. Mm-hmm. How autobiographical are some of the songs that you write?
It very much differs. I think it's interesting, people assume it's all very personal because I love details and I love stories. But I find it just as, and also I just write so many songs, I find it just as fun and rewarding to step into somebody else's shoes for the day and write something that maybe is rooted in like a feeling that I did feel, like jealousy or love or anger. But then like the way I talked about this the other day where I was talking about it, if you see like songwriting like painting, I don't see what's before me and go, right, I have to paint that exactly correctly. Like if I then start painting it and I'm like, that sky would look better if it was orange, but unfortunately it was only blue when I saw it. I'm going to paint it orange. Right. I'm not just going to stick to the truth so. Well, that's part
of storytelling, right?
Exactly.
Taking creative liberties.
You take roots. You veer off paths. But I mean, yeah, it very much differs. Some songs are very personal, some songs aren't about me at all.
Well, because I did write a couple of songs lines down here and there. For instance, Stay Young, that is kind of true for you,
That's
right?
very true to me, yes.
So what was that? Well, this is probably the last couple of years, but that dream developing, and then there's a hint of loneliness in there as well. Yeah. So was it, especially early on, a very solitary thing that you did?
Yes, it's funny. It's a very funny thing to do because a lot of the lifestyle is very social. So you'll spend all day with people. If, for example, on tour, I'm never alone. The whole day you're never alone. You're with your tour manager or your band, and you're talking to journalists or press, and then you're doing a show. But then you come off stage and then you go to your hotel room and then you're all on your own. And it's like a very weird juxtaposition where some of it, you were either with people all the time and everyone's trying to talk to you or no one's trying to talk to you. And I guess especially for me, when I started doing this, all my friends went to university, and I was living in London in very random houses with very random people in very random places. And there was definitely an element of like coming home from sessions or gigs and just like being in this weird house in London and like making myself dinner and like it's so weird not talking to anyone for like 5 hours because I didn't really live it with anyone. So it's like sudden silence, which is strange.
Is that a source of a lot of writing then? Is that the times that you write a lot? Art?
I do most of my writing. Nowadays, I used to write completely on my own for like the first 4 years, and now I write mainly with other people.
Okay.
So I think often, especially in that time when I'd go home, also I'd live with people, so you can't just start writing a song. You live with random strangers. But definitely, I'd write a lot of ideas down, and it was a good time for, I guess, reflection. But I find often I'll write most of my ideas down like just after the moment. I like quickly jot down what happens and then use it later on.
But that's an interesting thing though, because working with other people now, what has that opened up in terms of songwriting?
A lot. I love working with other people. I only tend to work with like 1 or 2 other people. But I think it just makes you think, you still think like you, but you have this other person sort of, not challenging, but like just offering other thoughts that you might not have. I always say, like, I know what song I'm going to write, I know what chords I'm going to use, because I always use them. So I love working with other people and just like you doing whatever you would normally do and then having a fresh take, which might just like knock it slightly sideways, and you're like, oh, I would never have done that.
Yeah, can you give me an example of a song that was tilted in that way?
Yes, so I've got an EP coming out tonight, or whenever this comes out, and there's a song on it called April Showers, and I just loved that as a title. I just wanted to write a song called April Showers because I thought it was a good title. And I went into my session that day as with my friends Ben and Amy, and I said that to them, and everyone was like, yeah, cool. And then we sort of started playing around, and Amy then said to me, what if it's like, what if someone called April is having a shower? Like, what if that's the song? She was like, I don't know, this is probably really rogue, like you won't want to do this, but what if it's April's having a shower? And I was like, I love it. So then the whole song is this like weird sort of like psychopath song about imagining somebody that you love like having a shower with someone else basically, and imagining like you going into their house and like picking through their things, which I did not, I didn't come into that session that day having gone through somebody's house and looked through their things.
Sure.
But it's a really good example of how your one thought can just be like knocked slightly and create this whole other world.
And now with this EP, you had an EP before, and I suppose you're working your way towards a full-length album. But how important are these first couple of outings to kind of figure out, not only figure out your musical identity, but also kind of demarcate a bit of space for yourself within music?
I think that's so important. I love albums, but I love EPs. I love eras of music. All my favorite artists. I'm like, oh yeah, that was the Speak Now era, and now that's the Red era. And I always talk, like me and my fans, we always talk about music like that. My first EP was called Dress Too Nice for a Jacket. And to me, that's like such a strong time in my life, and that EP, for other people as well, which is amazing. It really reflects that period in their life. And I love these little bodies of work which like get their own videos, and people take them and make their own art for them, and we all like sing them and tour them. I love the little like phases. I love them.
Right. How close to heart is the title of the EP then? It's Your Bed Babe, It's Your Funeral.
So my first EP was called Dress Too Nice for a Jacket, which just came, it was one of the lyrics in the first song that came out. And I was really struggling to name the EP. I was like, I don't know what to call it. And then we were just like, right, that's a good lyric, let's use that. And then everyone loved it, and it became this whole thing. And so then with this EP, I was like, right, stick to what you know. So the first song that came out was called This Is On You. So I was like, let's go through the lyrics and find a good one. And funnily enough, that lyric, people had already sort of commented on, saying they liked it. So I was like, okay, it's your bed, babe, it's your funeral. And then I was like, why am I calling it that? And now I actually have a reason, which I love and I've been talking about, which just I'll briefly say, I like this EP for me feels, it's like the older sister of my last EP. It's like a grown up, more confident older sister. And I think this EP is just, confident. It's a lot more confident in itself. And I like the fact that the title, It's Your Bed, Babe, It's Your Funeral, like it's tongue in cheek, but it's also sort of saying to people that listen to it, or my fans, like, It's your life, like it's your time to do what you want to do, and that's your bed or it's your funeral, whatever. But like you should not waste it. Which I know sounds really preachy, but it's not. It's just like like don't let other people tell you what to do or like how to do it. It's your bed. It's your funeral.
This sense of confidence, then, what gave you this sense in between albums? Is it just growing older? Is it kind of being in this field of business a little bit more? What gave you that confidence?
Yeah, I think it's just a natural progression. Obviously, I did my first EP, which I still love, and then I just think from there, the music that came, I guess it was still with quite a lot of similar people, so you sort of know each other a bit better. And yeah, interestingly, I just think, because I didn't set out to write another EP, I just culminated at the end of another year. But I think a lot of the songs just sonically are more progressive for me, more interesting, just more confident in doing what I did and what I love to do and just sort of, what's the word? Raising it, we're going to say. I don't know what the word is. Yeah.
Fair enough. Final question then. You mentioned earlier on that now you are quite ambitious. So how does that manifest itself? What are you? I don't like the question where do you see yourself in 5 years because nobody knows. But what do you want out of music in a way?
What do I want out of music? I want everything that I can get, like everything that I can and should be able to get. I would like. Like, it's funny, I had this conversation with my friend the other day. She wants to be, have a big role in videos. And I was saying to her, like, it's wild because we actually could. Like I love music and I want to be the biggest possible. And I actually am in a position where I get to make music as a job and people come and watch and want to see me. So in a way, like, I've sort of like done the hard part. Just do not quote that. I'm aware I'm not, but I'm like, I've started. So
right. But that's
might as well end.
One last thought then, because previously I interviewed Hamza here, and then she said a similar thing where you first have to realize that it's possible in a way. So when was that moment for you that, well, I can actually do music, I can actually pursue music and try and make a living out of it? Or
like last week. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I don't think there was I get asked this a little bit, like, there's not a specific moment. It sort of creeps up on you. You realise that you don't have a normal job, and you sort of realise lots of things. But there wasn't a moment where I was like, oh, now I am a pop star. It's just sort of every day, like incrementally, sort of see. But I don't know if I'm all the way there yet. I'm on the way.
It might also be, I'm quite analytical, so it might also be something that it's better not to think about it too much.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big fan of not overthinking. I like to think I underthink.
That's a good thing.
Takes me well. Honestly, I go on stage half the time like, I don't know what I'm doing, because I've just not thought about it.
No, that's a good attitude, I think.
Perfect.
All right. Maisie, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. That was very fun. You asked great questions.
That was a really good interview.
All the time.